The fourth variable is a little trickier because it's not a demographic variable, and this is a psychological individual difference. And the name of the individual difference that we're including in this model is known as regulatory focus. And regulatory focus is just a label or a different way for describing how we govern ourselves or how we regulate ourselves. There's some people, my best example, let me just give you an example. So my best example was as a parent. I would take my kids to the playground, and you would basically be able to split all parents into two groups. The first group of parents would be sitting and chatting with one another and drinking their coffee and not paying any attention to their kids. And you know, if you turn around and said, hey, look, your kid could get hurt. They could fall on the slide, or they could trip over something, and say, they learn. And they're what we call promotion-oriented or growth and accomplishment, much more risk-seeking or not as scared of things. And they tend to be governed much more by thinking about the benefits, the learning that comes from making mistakes instead of trying to prevent mistakes. The other group of parents, and that included me, were out there hovering, with their kids on the shaky bridge and sliding down, to their poor kid's chagrin, down the slide with their child. They're so worried all the time. Oh, you could get hurt. Oh my God, you could trip. Oh, you can't do this by yourself. I have to protect you. Prevention-oriented people or regulated people are much more governed by safety and security. They want to prevent bad things from happening. They're very concerned about not making mistakes. They tend to be much more risk averse. So this is a very interesting variable and not something that you could just look at someone and tell. And we have scales, very easy ways of measuring these variables. For example, you could ask, I am much more concerned about how I ought to behave, or my behavior is governed by my responsibilities, or I do my best not to make mistakes, right? Or, I am more comfortable in a safe and secure environment. All these kinds of questions would tell you that your audience has a prevention regulatory focus, as compared to questions such as, I like taking risks, right? Or feeling like I'm growing, feeling that I'm learning new things, even if I'm making mistakes, is appealing to me. Or you could have questions such as, I like new challenges. So those are just basic things. And you start asking, you could either ask your audience questions. I'm hoping one way in which the tool will be really useful in the future is if more these guidelines encourage researchers and practitioners to ask these questions more often. So if we're doing a survey and we're trying to find out more about our audiences, in the past we might have information on age and gender and race. Let's just add regulatory focus, and we have simple scales, and the tutorial will be in the model. 4 or 5 questions that help you assess the regulatory focus of your audience, and those can be included in the survey set that you use when you're learning more about your audience. So that's really straightforward. If you don't know, that's fine, and you can say both, and the model will accommodate that. But it would be fun to get some real information. If you know the regulatory focus of your audience, please select either promotion or prevention. If you feel your audience is mixed, some with prevention goals and some with promotion goals, please select both. Select I don't know if you don't have this information. One very, very popular message tactic that we use frequently is framing. We often think about, should we focus on the cost of not engaging in the behavior or a loss frame, or should we focus on the benefits of engaging in the behavior or a gain frame? And it's really fascinating because this gain-loss frame effectiveness is dependent on the regulatory focus of your audience. Now, up front, just the way I described it, your intuition might be to think, I should have a gain frame message for people who are promotion oriented because they're all about accomplishment and they'll like the benefits more. And I should have a loss frame message for prevention oriented people because they're focused on the costs of not doing stuff because they're all about safety and security. And actually the opposite is true. What we find, according to the model, is that promotion-oriented people kind of feel like they're kind of invulnerable and they tend to resist health recommendations in general as compared to prevention-oriented people who care more about safety and security. So for promotion-oriented people, it's actually better that they get a loss-frame message that focuses on the cost of not doing something, because it's a much more serious message than one that focuses on the benefits of doing something. And the opposite is true for prevention-oriented people. They kind of feel that they have this goal of safety and security anyway, and they're more likely to face and more likely to follow your health recommendation. So for them, focusing on the benefits of engaging in the behavior is actually better.